Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk a little bit about quantity and quality and how there's multiple philosophies around making stuff, right? So generally what you'll hear is you want to strive for quality, not quantity, as in you want to make a few really good things rather than making a load of mediocre things. I think the adage is something like, would you rather make one amazing film or like 50 mediocre films? And with the presumption that you would obviously pick the one amazing film over the 50 mediocre films. However, I feel like I would rather make 50 mediocre films than one amazing film, because in the process of making 50 mediocre things, that they're not actually going to all be the same level of quality. They're not all going to be the same amount of mediocre. Some will admittedly be quite bad. Some of those 50 films will just be absolutely god-awful. But some of those 50 films will be higher than average. They'll be more than what was actually put into them. It's about the amount of work compared to the amount of quality that comes out of it. Would you rather spend 2 years making one 7 out of 10 film, right? Or would you rather spend 2 months making one 6 out of 10 film, right? Personally, I would much rather spend 2 months making the 6 out of 10 film. And I don't know if that maybe says a lot about me and the fact that maybe I don't strive for the highest of quality. And obviously, if you have a look at this YouTube channel, if you go down the plethora of videos that have come out by this point, you'll see that I do actually take the idea of putting quantity over quality into practice. I actually am much more interested in making lots of decent things rather than spending all my time trying to work on one amazing thing, because there's no guarantee that with time commitment and energy put into something that you will come out with a quality product. I have spent 4 years making a film. I have spent 1 month making a film. I have spent 1 day making a film. I have spent a couple hours making a film. And I don't know it's a huge difference in terms of quality. Now, I am really proud of that film that took me 4 years to actually put together. Don't get me wrong, and I'm really glad that I did that. I'm glad that I went for the quality approach, because it helps to broaden the mindset of figuring out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. If I only ever just shat things out, right? Spending 1 day on a project, done. Spend 1 day on a project, done. Spend 1 day on a project, done. Right? If I only did that and I had never ever put any effort into doing some kind of long-term project, right? I don't think I would be able to have the same cohesive kind of ideology. It's all about trying to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, right? And for me personally, working on a lot of things tends to work for me, right? Because if I was to spend 4 years making something, and I have proven this to myself multiple times now, if I'm to spend 4 years making something, it's probably not going to be my best thing. There's a decent chance it will be good, right? And I'm happy that I have spent this time working on this thing, whatever it may be, whether that be a film or an album or a book or whatever. I'm glad that that time has been spent and I've gotten something out of it, because it's not just the product at the end of it that I've gotten out of it. It's not the piece of film or art or whatever that I have gotten out of that time commitment. It is the lessons that I have learned along the way, which I can then apply in a faster paced environment, right? So, for instance, my first film, my first short film, I started it in May 2018 and it came out in, I think, January 2019, right? It was called Michael's Lives, and it's kind of awful. It's not very good. It's the sort of thing that you watch just to sort of take the piss out of someone that's being very, very pretentious and getting ideas above their station in terms of being an artiste and just cinephile kind of thing. I was taking from all my kind of inspirations at the time. Like there's a little bit of all kinds of films that I was really into, like Bad Boy Bubby or whatever the one that came, Requiem for a Dream. There's a bit of that in there, a bit of all those kind of films, right? And I kind of cobbled together those things via my naivety, right? And then put them all into one conglomerate mess of a film that's 27 minutes long, that has no right being 27 minutes long, right? And it came out and people liked it. And I think people like it more than I like it. And I don't necessarily know if that's just people being nice, like, oh, wow, well done, And if they are, I guess thanks for being nice. You don't have to humour me though, I don't mind, because I look at this thing and whilst I'm proud of the lessons I was able to take from the experience, I'm not particularly proud of the final product. Conversely, some of these Johnny Mozzer videos that I seem to do where I just come out and talk somewhere, right? Some of them are also 27 minutes long, and I like them more. They tell their story in a more cohesive, coherent, and interesting, captivating way compared to that 27-minute project that I spent 9 months making, right? Compared to the 16-minute film that I spent 4 years working on, right? I like some of these little videos that I do in, 2 hours most of these videos take to make, right? Because I film them and I take them back, do a bit of color grading, and then I export them, right? And that's it. That's all that happens with these things, okay? Compared to a film where with a film, I need to first find a location, I need to find a crew, I need to find actors, I need to get the crew and the actors and the location to all be on board, and then I need to get all of them to the location with all the equipment. I need to, I need to get all the equipment set up, and I need to figure out what the shots are, what the script is, what the order of the things that we're going to do for the day is, what the itinerary is. Now I need to do all of those things, and I need to do that multiple times, say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days of filming, right? And then I do that, and then I take all the footage back, and then I have to sync it all and compile it all and do all the assistant editing stuff where I take every single take and then compile all the audio and all the video together, and I need to take all that stuff and then compile it into a single rough cut, and then I need to edit that further and refine it and improve the audio and refine the audio and all that kind of stuff, and then I need to do the color grading on that, and then I need to work on marketing material for the film, trailers and like little extra bits, stuff like that, clips and things, soundtrack. All of these things need to come together before I can then release the film. And at the end of the day, I'm putting all of this effort into something when people don't really engage with cinematic kind of stuff like that anymore, like a narrative, cinematic driven story about a character. It's not the first thing that people go for necessarily. And I don't mind that. I'm not complaining about the fact that people aren't really into their cinema anymore, because I'm not either. I don't watch a massive amount of films, and I sort of take ownership of that. For the amount of films that I've made, I certainly don't watch enough films. Right? I've watched a few weird foreign films, and I think I base most of my weird sort of ideas on those few foreign films that I've actually watched, like Underground and Time of the Gypsies and Delicatessen and stuff like that, right? So you take those inspirations and then put them into a product. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that that's the ultimate way of going ahead, especially if you're trying to build some kind of portfolio because you want to do this as a career, I don't think the traditional sort of way of getting into the filmmaking world is as coherent as it used to be. It's now not a case of making a few really amazing bits of cinema that go around a few film festivals and then gets you loads of jobs. And maybe it never was that, right? Now what it seems to be is about making engaging content, okay? And I don't have a problem with trying to make engaging content because I engage with engaging content because it is engaging, right? And I would much rather have an audience that is entertained than an audience that's sitting there going, oh yes, he's doing something very interesting with that. So I don't give a shit. I'm not like some lofty high art person, despite what the clothes might tell you, right? I'm not some kind of pretentious kind of person. Like one of my favorite films ever is Crank 2. I like Crank 2 slightly more than Crank 1 because it's just so stupid and ridiculous and so over the top that it becomes entertaining. And I want to make entertainment rather than art. Right? If we're going to make some kind of distinction there, I feel like entertainment has the ultimate goal of getting you to escape this current reality, whereas art, and this is a very generic kind of overarching kind of definition, art that I would say is more about trying to get you more in touch with the current reality that we have and to get you to think about the world and about various philosophies and an ideology of seeing the world and trying to see a world in a certain way and that kind of thing, and broadening your horizons and getting you to be more cultural and that kind of thing, right? And I'm not someone that gets a lot of enjoyment out of that personally. So for me to actually go and try and make stuff like that feels a little bit phony, and I feel like you can see that phoniness in my early sort of films. So if you feel like that as well, if you spend most of your time watching, sort of fun YouTube stuff and skits and things like that, why are you going out your way to try and make some kind of lofty high art? Because you're supposed to, because this is what you're told that you're meant to do in like film school and all that kind of stuff, whether, you need to make a short film, you need to make a thing that actually moves people and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested in moving people. I just want to make people have a good time. I'd rather make, I'll tell you some of my favorite films ever, right? Alan Partridge, Alpha Papa, right? The World's End, Crank and Crank 2, Die Hard. There's other stuff as well, like I do like a few more potentially sort of things like Underground, but then even then Underground is kind of fun. It's not like it's trying to depress you all the time, but I mean there's a high art and points that are being made through it, and I like when you can do both, right? But I'm not particularly interested in, you know, like Blue is the Warmest Colour, for instance. I got about 45 minutes into that and I didn't even get to the lesbian sex scene. I just thought, fuck this. 3 hours of mopey twats going around just talking about their problems. I'm just like, shut the fuck up, I've got problems. I don't need to spend my time sympathizing with some character that doesn't fucking exist in a country that I don't live in, right? So I sort of try and take the lessons that I gain from life in general and, you know, experiences that teach you something, and then try and put those into the things that I make, right? And I think by making as many things as possible, I'm able to engage with as many of the ideas that I want to communicate to you as possible. Through doing these Johnny Mozzer talking videos, whatever they are, right? I haven't even named I haven't figured out a name for this series. I haven't figured out exactly what this is all about. There isn't a specific topic that we all talk about on this channel. And across 250 videos or whatever that we've done now, right? It's all about just trying to engage with ideas, right? So what will generally happen is, say, you want to make a video on, I don't know, making music, right? And sort of motivating people to make music, right? So we start off with a generic, oh yeah, you should go out and make music because making music is fun type of video, right? And then from there, I kind of look back at the video after I've released it or when I'm releasing it and kind of just sort of think, there's more that I have to say about like this part of the topic, like singing, for instance. I didn't really talk about singing in this, so I could do a whole nother video about singing. I could do a whole other album about making, a whole other video about making albums, or a whole other video about music videos. I haven't even done one about making music videos yet, so I could do one of those. So, and then from those, there's more, you know, topics that I could cover by doing other topics, right? It's a endless spider's web sort of graph. You know, when you go to like those little like employee sort of engagement kind of things where they sit you down, they make you give ideas and they put them on a spider graph and they circle it, and then they, oh, what comes off of those? And what comes off of motivation? Oh, trying hard. Oh, doing this. Oh, yeah, you know. And replace all that with topics for videos, because by doing one video I come up with an idea for another video through seeing it and seeing what I did and didn't get into, right? You don't need to cover every single thing in one video. If you're going to make a video about music, you don't need to cover every single thing in the realm of music ever for the rest of the time. That doesn't need to be what happens. So you can just do things at your own pace. And at the same time, if you kind of, it's like being on a treadmill, for instance, right? You don't really want to get on the treadmill. You're kind of sitting there like thinking of little excuses to take yourself home and just sit in front of the telly and watch like Bullseye and eat crisps, right? You can do that, right? But if you get on the treadmill and you start like a little bit like this, right? And then you get a bit faster, right? And then, you know, now I'm getting comfortable. And then now I'm jogging, I can jog for a long time, right? I can just keep doing this. And the longer that I'm able to sustain this jog, the more stuff is coming my way, the more opportunities that come my way, the more things that I have to create, the more things that I have to say, right? Because I'm engaging with things, because I'm keeping the momentum up, right? And if I'm to stop, right, as happens to all of us many, many times, if you stop, that's when kind of issues come. However, you do need to stop. So it's about kind of controlling your stoppages rather than facing burnout, because you don't want to get into that. So what I would say is you can get quality via quantity. By continuing your jog, the more distance you're able to take in this metaphorical jog, the more landmarks that you will pass, and the more landmarks that you pass, the more experiences that you will develop, and the more experiences you develop, the more things you have to say, and the more things you have to say, the more opportunities for videos will come about, or songs, or whatever, right? If you've never lived, what do you have to write music about? Imaginary scenarios. If you've lived a load of experiences, you can write about those experiences. Maybe not necessarily literally, you know, in an autobiographical manner, although you can. It's more about just taking the experiences and translating them into something that everyone can kind of understand, right? So, I mean, I made an album all about my divorce, right? And it kind of is unique to me and my situation. However, I made sure to write it in a way that it's semi-generic, I guess, in a way that other people could relate to these experiences, whilst at the same time keeping specific, not necessarily specifics of the situation, but things that feel true to me, and put those into the song where I might not see that in other songs. Something that there's a niche to fill here a little bit. So, and part of me feels like the more that you do that, and the more that you engage, and the more that you, with life, and the more that you create things based on your experiences, the more experiences will come your way, and that is a self-fulfilling cycle. And the more that you can keep that cycle going, the more successful you will become in the long run, right? And so with regards to quality over quantity, I tend to think of it in waves. So I have quantity waves and I have quality waves. So if a quantity wave's whoosh, right, big tsunami, right, comes over you, right? And with that, you kind of get a lot of things out there, you're doing stuff all the time, you're engaging with things really quickly, right? But, as I was saying earlier, you don't want to face burnout, so you do have to stop at some point. And that's when the quality side of things comes in, and you can focus maybe on one or two bigger ideas, or even just the same sort of ideas, but taking them at a slower pace. And doing things in both ways, right, will net you different results. Sometimes I come out and film like 6, 7 videos in a go, right? And sometimes I come out and film one, right? And sometimes the ones that, while I'm coming out and filming 6 or 7 of these videos, some of those 6 or 7 are better than the one video that I made when I came out, right? Not always. Sometimes that one video is really, really amazing, but not always. Sometimes that one video is kind of mediocre. Whereas with the 7, maybe 3 are mediocre, 1 is just outright bad and I don't release it, but 2 are really good. So I hope that kind of makes a little bit of sense, in that you need to have a little bit of quality and a bit of quantity in order to gain quality via quantity. You can't always be sprinting. Sometimes you need to take it slow and pace yourself, right? Because it's about maintaining your mental and physical and emotional capacity to create works of art. And that's what we are all doing, even if you're just making like content, like AI generated okay, no, not that. But say you're just making bog standard like YouTube videos, right? You're still making a form of art at the end of the day, and you still have something to say and a message you're trying to get across, even if it's just something comedic and a little basic, right? You're still trying to say something, even if it's like, can't we all relate to, you know, going to Sainsbury's and thinking, oh, why have they changed everything around? You know? We all have those little experiences, and if you can take your inspiration and translate it into a tangible thing, then you are doing something right? And the more that you can do that and get into a groove of doing it, then the more successful you will become. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole point of this video, is it's just about trying to motivate you to start making stuff and to engage with what I like to call the quantity experiment. So October through December of last year, 2024, I set out to make 2 videos a day like this, right? Or at least just 2 uploads a day. And I succeeded at the challenge by the skin of my teeth. But the fact that I did complete that challenge meant that I had suddenly like 180 sort of these videos, right? And they're all covering vastly different topics. Some are about music, some are about like my childhood, some are about, you know, my thoughts on the future or politics or whatever, you know? There's so many different things that I was able to cover in a way that I wouldn't have been able to cover if I was to just go for pure quality. Sometimes you need a bit of quantity because you shouldn't always try and set out to make the best thing that you've ever made, right? Do you think that, like, I don't know, David Gilmour or whatever, you know, the old sort of 60s, 70s rockers, right, that were making stuff in their peak in the 70s and are still going now, do you think that their, like, 15th solo album, do you think that they think that's their best thing? Of course they don't. They know that they have made some of their best stuff and now they're comfortable and in a groove, and they're still making stuff that they're proud of. I'm not saying that they're just chucking shit out there for the sake of it, right? They're obviously still proud of what they make and they put a lot of time and effort into it. However, they're not setting out to make the best thing every time, because if they did that, they would paralyze themselves through endless comparisons to their past, right? And if you go out trying to top yourself every single time, you're going to find that after a few times of having successfully topped yourself, that you're going to just come to a point where you go, fucking hell, that's really good. I'm never going to be able to make anything nearly as good as that. Who cares if it's not as good? Just make the bloody thing. Make a few of them, and then eventually you'll get back onto it. And you'll accidentally top yourself again and again and again. So that's kind of the video. It's just trying to keep a balance between your ability to create and your self motivation. So yeah, that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you managed to get something out of it. If you have any thoughts on this, if you have ever engaged with this idea of a quantity experiment yourself, please let me know. How did it go for you? Did you find yourself getting a different result compared to me? Do you disagree with the whole video? Do you agree with the whole video? Let me know. Let me know what's going on with your art and your creativity, or even maybe not necessarily in the field of creativity, maybe in something else. Maybe it's about building buildings as quickly as possible, though maybe that violates OSHA regulations. I don't know. I don't know what the British equivalent of OSHA is. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.